I never thought my quiet morning at home would turn into a nightmare. Holding on to a small bag containing my daughter's ashes, I answered the door to find my nosy neighbor accusing me of being a drug dealer and calling the cops. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a heated confrontation. Here's how it all went down. I was sitting in my living room, quietly holding onto a small bag. It was a small bag, but it contained something incredibly valuable to me. My daughter had recently passed away, and this little bag contained her ashes. It was one way that I could cope with the pain and grief of her passing. I would hold onto the bag and feel as if she was still with me. I was lost in thought, thinking about my daughter and the memories we shared, when there was a knock on my door. I got up to answer it, and was surprised to see my neighbor standing there. She had always been somewhat nosy, but I didn't expect her to be at my door this early in the morning. I greeted her and asked her what she wanted. That's when she noticed the bag that I was holding. "What's that?" she asked, pointing to the bag. I hesitated for a moment, unsure of whether I wanted to share my private business with Karen, but she was persistent, and I eventually told her that it was my daughter's ashes. That's when things took a turn for the worse. Karen's eyes widened, and she gasped. "Those aren't drugs, are they?" she asked, accusingly. I was taken aback by her accusation. "Of course not," I said, insulted that she would even ask. Karen wasn't satisfied with my answer. She continued to press me, asking me where I got the drugs and how long I had been using them. I was getting angrier by the minute, but I tried to remain calm. I explained to her that it was my daughter's ashes, but she didn't believe me. She then told me that she had a duty to report drug activity in the neighborhood. She said that she was going to call the cops and have me arrested for possession. I was horrified and outraged. How could she accuse me of something like that? I tried to explain to her that the bag contained my daughter's ashes again, but she still wouldn't listen. "I don't believe you," she said, her voice rising. "You're lying to me. You're a drug dealer, and I'm going to make sure that you get what's coming to you." I was getting more and more frustrated with Karen's accusations. I had done nothing wrong, and yet she was treating me like a criminal. I could feel my blood pressure rising, and I tried to take deep breaths to calm myself down, but Karen wouldn't budge. She stood in my doorway, blocking my exit, and continued to hurl insults at me. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, and I knew that I needed to get away before I did something I would regret. "Karen, I'm serious," I said, my voice shaking. "You need to leave. I don't want to talk to you anymore." But Karen just laughed. "You're not going anywhere," she said, smirking. "I'm going to make sure that you get what's coming to you. You're a drug dealer, and I'm going to make sure that everyone knows it." I could feel my anger boiling over, and I knew that I needed to get out of there before I did something I would regret. I pushed past Karen, trying to make my way to the door, but she grabbed onto my arm, holding me back. "I said let go of me!" I shouted, trying to pull my arm away from Karen's grasp. She was holding on tighter than ever, her nails digging into my skin. I could feel the pain shooting up my arm, and I knew that I needed to get away before things got even worse. "Tell me the truth!" Karen demanded, her face twisted in anger. "I already told you the truth," I screamed back, my voice rising with frustration. "It's my daughter's ashes. Why can't you believe me?" Karen just sneered. "Because you're lying," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "I know a drug dealer when I see one. You're going to jail, lady." I could feel my panic rising. I knew that if the cops showed up and saw me with this bag of ashes, they might not believe me either. I needed to get it out of Karen's hands before it was too late. "Please," I begged, my voice shaking with fear. "Just let me go. You don't understand what you're doing. Please, I'll do anything." But Karen just laughed. "You're not going anywhere," she said, tightening her grip even more. "I'm going to make sure that you get what's coming to you." I could feel tears streaming down my face, and I knew that I needed to get away from her before I completely lost it. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes, trying to calm myself down. That's when I felt it. A sudden burst of strength, like something deep inside me had snapped. I pulled my arm away from Karen's grasp and stepped back, staring at her with pure hatred. "You listen to me," I said, my voice cold and hard. "I don't know what your problem is, but you're not going to ruin my life." "Not today, not ever. You're just a bitter, miserable woman who has nothing better to do than dive your nose in other people's business. Well, you're not going to win this time. I'm done with you." Karen looked shocked, her mouth hanging open in disbelief. "You can't talk to me like that," she sputtered. "I'm going to call the cops, and I'm going to make sure that you—" "Shut up," I said, cutting her off. "Just shut up. You don't get to talk anymore. You're done, you're finished, and you're never going to bother me again." I took a step back from Karen, who was still standing in my doorway, looking shocked by my outburst. I had never been one to speak up like that, but something about her accusations and her grip on my arm had pushed me to my limit. "You need to leave," I said, my voice shaking, but still firm. "I don't want you here anymore." Karen looked like she was about to say something, but I didn't give her the chance. I turned around and walked away, feeling her eyes on my back. As soon as I got inside, I closed the door and locked it. I leaned against it, trying to catch my breath. I could still feel the pain in my arm where she had grabbed me, and I knew that I was going to have a nasty bruise. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down. I didn't want to think about Karen anymore. I just wanted to be left alone. But then, I heard a knock on the door. My heart started racing again. Was it my neighbor? Had she come back for more? I hesitated for a moment, but then I gathered my courage and went to the door. I looked through the peephole and saw a police officer standing on my front porch. My heart sank. Had Karen really called the cops on me? I took a deep breath and opened the door. "Ma'am, we received a call about possible drug activity at this residence," the officer said, looking at me expectantly. I felt my face flush with anger. "It's not drugs," I said, my voice shaking. "It's my daughter's ashes." The officer looked surprised. "Your daughter's ashes?" he repeated. I nodded, feeling tears starting to form in my eyes. "Yes," I said. "She passed away recently, and I've been holding on to her ashes." The officer looked sympathetic. "I'm sorry for your loss," he said. "Do you have any paperwork to prove that these are your daughter's ashes?" I nodded again. "Yes," I said. "I have the paperwork from the cremation process." The officer looked at the paperwork and then back at me. "Everything seems to be in order," he said. "I'm sorry for any inconvenience, ma'am." I nodded, feeling relieved. "Thank you," I said, my voice shaking. "I just want to be left alone." The officer nodded and walked away, leaving me alone once again. After that day, I had never heard from my neighbor ever again. I hoped that she got a good scolding from the cops that she called and learned to never be nosy over someone's business ever again. It's unbelievable that I had to go through this while grieving over my child's passing. How can some people be so cruel? Nonetheless, I'll continue moving forward, not just for my daughter, but for myself as well. Wow, that Karen really needs to mind her own business. I can't believe how insensitive some people can be. I hope she can find some peace after such a traumatic experience. This took place some years ago, when I was only 22 years old. My sister, who was 18 at the time, was always the favorite child of my mother, which meant that she usually got off easy with her bad behavior. My father, thankfully, would often call her out on her actions, but my mother's interference would always hinder the discipline process. This is what happened back then. My parents had decided to take a ski vacation to Aspen, leaving my sister in charge of the house. They made it clear that there should be no parties while they were gone. However, my sister chose to ignore this rule and sent out invitations to a party, promising free alcohol. I hadn't seen the post yet, but she called me, requesting that I buy alcohol for the party since I was over 21. She insisted that I pay for it and said that she would reward me by introducing me to an easy girl and inviting me to the party. I refused since it was illegal and against the rules set by our parents. She screamed at me over the phone, claiming that I was ruining her life and that she couldn't take back the invites since they were already all over Facebook. I looked at her post and realized how foolish it was. I warned her that what she did was really stupid since everyone invited was underage, which made it illegal. She tried to say that it would only be illegal if I snitched on them, but I refused to buy her booze. She continued screaming at me and I eventually hung up on her. That night, my sister had the party as planned and someone called the police for underage drinking. After being arrested and confronted by the police, my sister threw me under the bus, claiming that I had supplied the alcohol. She had actually broken into our father's liquor cabinet and thought it would be better to frame me for her crime. The police came and arrested me at my apartment a day after the party. They were convinced I was guilty and didn't listen to me when I said I was never there. Despite this, I cooperated with them and told them everything that had happened. At the station, I showed them my sister's Facebook post, and thankfully, there were a few people who listened to me. I still had to spend the night in a cell while my parents were called. My parents flew back home overnight and bailed out both my sister and me. My mother, however, tried to make my father leave me in jail because my sister had told them lies as well. After looking at my sister's Facebook, my father believed me, and this caused a fight between him and my mother. It was later discovered that my sister had broken into my father's liquor cabinet and spoke to the police on my behalf. My mom, however, still wanted to blame me because, as she put it, the charges were ruining her baby's future. Despite the evidence, she was convinced I was guilty. She even came to my apartment and demanded that I tell the police that it was all my fault. She begged me to take the blame, promising that she and my father would make everything okay in the long run. I refused, and she threw a fit, cussing me out like a madwoman. I told my father everything that happened, and he got into a huge fight with my mother. She didn't deny anything she said or did because she deemed it would have been for the greater good of their daughter. My dad told her that she couldn't destroy me to save my sister and threatened to divorce her if she didn't try to make things right. She ended up apologizing to me, but it was obvious that it was a forced apology. During my sister's court hearing, my mother begged the judge to go easy on her for the charges of underage drinking, giving other underage people alcohol, attempting to frame me for her crime, and resisting arrest when the police came and shut down the party. She was very drunk when it happened, and they kept her in a cell overnight to sober up. The relentless lawyer my parents hired managed to cut a deal with the judge, provided that my sister plead guilty. Her lawyer used the fact that the alcohol had already been in the house before the party happened to help lessen the charges. My sister's Facebook post had also been deleted by her as soon as possible to hide the evidence. The judge wanted the case over with, so my sister got off with a hefty fine that my mother paid for, as well as a couple of years of probation. She was made to get therapy by our father, but she's never really shown any actual remorse for what she did. She was later diagnosed as a narcissist after Dad made her go see a doctor. After her probation and 4 years of college were over, she decided to leave home for California and never come back once she landed a good job. She currently works in an office in LA, and we haven't spoken in years. My dad got her that job, but she's never shown any real appreciation for it. Even my mom has given up on her ever coming home for the holidays and us being a family again. It tore her up inside for a few years, but now she's just bitter. She doesn't really blame me anymore, but we only seem to show indifference to each other. Just because my sister cut her off wouldn't make me the new favorite. It just means my mom lost her baby and isn't getting her back. She can't leave my dad because she's too reliant on him. Despite having her own career, she'd never want to be on her own again, so she's just become a shell of her former self. Things between me and my dad are still great. He's pretty much disowned my sister for what she's done and has stopped caring if she'll ever talk to him again. He and my mom don't even sleep in the same bedroom anymore. She moved into the guest room some 5 years ago and has stayed there. Their marriage is really only one on paper these days, and it's sad to see them like this. It's crazy how one person's bad decisions can ruin so many relationships. It's sad to see how the mom still can't see her daughter's faults, even after everything that happened. I hope everyone else in the family is doing okay, though. It's always tough to deal with family drama, but it sounds like they have a strong bond. I am a teacher in a small private school in the Caribbean. I am local. My family has been here for literally centuries. But my principal, whom I will call P from now on, and vice principal, VP, are expats from the USA, and neither of them understands how to run a high school effectively. I don't believe their nationality is the reason for this. I have worked with amazing teachers from around the world, including U.S. teachers. It's just that for P, who is also the owner of the institution, the school was established as a pet project back in the 70s, so she would have something to do while her husband was at work at his multi-million-dollar company. VP moved here about 10 years ago, but she's never been interested in assimilating into the local community. Instead, she prefers to hang out in gated communities with other expats. She likes having a job she's not qualified for, as she has no training in educational management, and she relishes the fact that she got the VP position over qualified local teachers simply because her appearance reminds P of her daughter. It's been difficult working at this school because VP is a megalomaniac. She will tell you that the grass is purple, and when you try to correct her, no matter how kindly and knowledgeably, she will insist that the grass is purple and then make you paint the grass purple for her so she can prove she's right. The only reason I stay at this school is that I love my coworkers, the students are super sweet, and I'm the breadwinner of my household until my husband is done with university. But sometimes my VP is so frustrating that I want to hit her with a club. One of the best examples of this behavior was during my first year teaching at this school. I had only been a teacher for 2 years prior, but I had quite a bit of experience with national and international exams. I had tutored the SAT since college, and I had proctored several SAT sittings at my previous school. It is safe to say that I knew the exam pretty well, and I kept up to date with changes to make sure my students were always ready. During my first year, VP had an arch nemesis. To be honest, VP has an arch nemesis every year. It really is like some bad anime. My coworkers and I think VP targets someone every season to use as a scapegoat sacrifice for her ineptitude. She blames all the school's problems, which are usually 75% VP's fault, on that single person so that she can convince P to fire them and claim that all the school's problems have been exercised with the teacher. But this particular teacher was difficult. Long story short, this math teacher, MT, was challenging, but she was a great counter to VP's behavior. They got into conflicts all the time. And one of the most ridiculous arguments was over calculators for the SAT. Our school had just been certified as an SAT center, and we were going to have our first SAT sitting, but VP honestly believed that our school was going to be the first school ever in my country to host the SATs. Never mind that several colleagues and I had taken SATs and APs in high school here in my home country. VP told P that she was single-handedly introducing College Board to this country, and in P's eyes, everything VP said was the truth. VP was extremely nervous about hosting the SAT. She was anxious that representatives from College Board would waltz in during the exam and find something out of order that would get our center shut down. She ignored advice from seasoned SAT proctors because they weren't American. So how would they know anything about an American exam? Because VP was so nervous and completely moronic, she somehow misread the SAT manual. Hence, the following drama ensued. 2 days before the first SAT sitting at our school, Montana barges into my classroom during one of my planning periods, steam pouring out of her ears. Behind her is a crowd of 11th graders, wailing and yelling. Horrified by MT's language in front of our students, I race to my door, usher MT in, and shut out the kids. I ask her what's wrong. Apparently, VP showed up during MT's class with 11th grade, who were all signed up to take the SAT that Saturday, and announced that no calculators were allowed in the examination room. She claimed that after thoroughly reading the SAT manual, it was clear that the SAT did not require calculators, and thus, if any student were to bring a calculator to the exam on Saturday, VP would expel them from the center. I was stunned. I had been tutoring the SAT for some time, and while I did not tutor math, I knew that there was an entire section of the SAT that required a calculator. However, I also knew that just a few weeks prior to this debacle, VP and MT had gotten into a huge argument about calculators. According to VP, Montana was teaching our high school students to rely too heavily on calculators, which was a sign that MT was not qualified to teach math. It was obvious that banning calculators from the SAT exam was not a mandate from College Board, but rather a poorly understood at best and insidious at worst ploy to validate VP's disapproval of MT. MT demands I talk some reason into VP. While I am not a fan of MT, I am worried about our students. It was their examination that was being jeopardized by the petty feud between VP and MT. However, I had had enough experience with VP to know that, in this situation, the grass was purple, and no amount of arguing was going to convince her otherwise. The woman is like a rhino. When she runs full force forward. So I decide to go straight to the head woman, P, but before I do, I print off an up-to-date copy of the SAT manual straight from College Board's official website and read over the calculator rules just to make sure. Can you believe it? Calculators were allowed. I shove the manual in a folder and walk over to the administrative office. I arrive at P's office and ask our secretary if P has time to speak to me privately. Unfortunately, VP just so happens to be in the vicinity, and before I can even take a seat on P's couch, VP enters P's office and takes a seat across from me. P, of course, sees nothing suspicious about this and asks me to explain what was so urgent that I had to meet with her so abruptly. I can tell VP knows. She has got this weird coy smirk on her face, but I ignore the desire to scrub it off with acid. I explained to P the situation, how there has been a misunderstanding about the use of calculators in the SAT exam, how our registered students are scared and confused about the banning of calculators, how it is absolutely fine and probably necessary for students to use a calculator for a certain section of the math test. I see P's laptop on the couch and, forgetting my print copy in my folder, I ask P if I can use it to show VP the up-to-date SAT manual. At this point, I do not want to shame VP. Shaming her would only cause more strife, as she is a vengeful woman. I place the laptop in VP's lap and show her the rules about calculators. How there's a list of dozens of accepted calculators for the exam. VP lets out this disgusting half-sigh, half-croaking noise she makes when she realizes she's wrong or has done something stupid. Then I reach for the laptop so that I can show the manual to P. Before I can take the laptop, VP presses the power button and shuts the laptop down cold. Then, she casually closes the top panel and lays the laptop on the couch farthest away from P. She tells P that I've only confirmed what she already knew, that calculators are not allowed in the SAT room. People I could not feel my body. It was like my flesh had turned into TV static. How could VP blatantly lie like this? The proof was right there. Of course, P believes VP entirely. P tells me that under no circumstances are calculators allowed on campus during the SAT because, as VP has already told her, if a representative from College Board shows up and sees a calculator, our center will be shut down. P is even considering banning calculators from campus indefinitely. I mean, who needs them, right? Not trigonometry, geometry, and calculus students? It was at that moment that I remember that I have a copy of the SAT manual in the folder on my lap. Just as casually as VP had been with the laptop, I take out the printed manual, turn to the page on calculators, get nice and cozy in the seat next to P, and read the manual next to her with my finger on each word, explaining everything I had said about calculators. I also turned to the front cover to show her the year this manual was issued. That very season. P is amazed. Oh, VP, calculators are allowed? The manual you were looking at must have been old. I know that was crap. I know P is just as insane as VP, but I did not correct P. You may disagree with my inaction, and so does my heart, but I had just won a major battle. I was drained by having to prove the truth was the truth, and facts were facts. At that point, I only cared about my students. VP glares at me with the fakest smile and says how happy she is. I had a printed, updated copy of the SAT manual to show them before the exam. It has been a few years since this happened. I wish I could say that VP is no longer with us, but sadly, she's still here, causing chaos. MT was fired that June. VP is as resilient as a cockroach and eats P's crap like chocolate cake, so I've had to learn how to deal with her until I can make the next step in my career. However, this story does have a happy ending. My students were able to bring their calculators to the exam during that first sitting without a hitch. I made sure of it, as I was the admissions officer that Saturday. VP has never pushed her argument further either. It is hard, I suppose, to refute cold, hard facts. But what's funny is that whenever VP and I discuss me proctoring the next SAT exam, she reminds me of that hilarious time MT tried to get calculators banned from the SAT asterisk. I nearly fainted the first time VP said this, and she was so confident. Laughs like it was a quirky mistake that some jerk made. I usually tell her how I remember the incident rather differently than she does. And every once in a while when I'm feeling randy, go so far as to say, "Was not that you?" It feels good to see VP's face turn into a beat. I can't believe some people can be so ridiculous. Big shout out to the teacher who kept her cool and saved the day for those poor students. And Vice President, if you're watching, just remember, facts don't care about your feelings. I never thought grocery shopping would turn into a nightmare, but that's exactly what happened. As a 7 months pregnant woman, I was accused of shoplifting by a middle-aged woman named Karen. It was a situation that quickly spiraled out of control. Here's how it all went down. I was just going about my business, doing my weekly grocery shopping. As a 7 months pregnant woman, it was already difficult enough to navigate the crowded aisles and heavy bags, but I was determined to get everything I needed. I had just finished selecting the perfect apples when I heard someone shouting. Turning around, I saw a middle-aged woman waving her arms frantically. She zeroed in on me and started to approach, her eyes blazing with what I could only describe as fury. "Excuse me, miss, but I saw you put something in your bag. I think you're shoplifting," Karen said, her voice dripping with accusation. "What? No, I wasn't. I was just putting my wallet away," I replied, my heart starting to race. "I don't believe you. I want to check your bag," Karen said, reaching out to grab it. As she tried to grab my bag, I felt a wave of fear wash over me. I could feel my palms starting to sweat, and my heart was racing faster than before. I knew I had nothing to hide, yet the thought of being accused of theft was unsettling. "No, you can't do that," I protested, pulling my bag away from her. I could feel my voice becoming more and more frantic as I tried to defend myself. "Why not? What are you hiding in there?" Karen demanded, her tone becoming more aggressive. "I'm not hiding anything. I'm just trying to do my shopping," I said, my voice starting to shake. I tried to remain calm, but my nerves were getting the better of me. "You're clearly trying to steal something. I'm going to call security," Karen said, pulling out her phone. My heart sank. I couldn't believe this was happening to me. "I'm not stealing anything. I'm pregnant, for God's sake," I exclaimed, tears starting to well up in my eyes. I was desperate for her to believe me, to see that I was just an innocent shopper who had been accused of something she didn't do. "I don't care if you're pregnant or not. You're coming with me," Karen said, grabbing my arm. As she dragged me towards the store's security office, I couldn't help but feel violated and humiliated. All I had wanted to do was buy some groceries, yet now I was being treated like a criminal. I couldn't believe what was happening. This woman, Karen, was accusing me of shoplifting just because I'm pregnant. I felt like my blood was boiling. "You have no right to treat me like this," I said, trying to stay calm. "I'm not hiding anything, and I'm not going anywhere with you." Karen just laughed. "Oh please, you're not fooling anyone. I know you're hiding something in there. Just let me see what's under there." "I said no!" I exclaimed, backing away from her. "You have no right to search me or my things." Karen's words continued to echo in my mind as she reached out to grab my belly again. I could feel my emotions boiling under the surface, but I tried to remain calm. However, I couldn't take it anymore. Her entitled attitude and constant accusations had pushed me to my limit. "Get away from me!" I yelled, my voice echoing through the room as I pushed her away. I knew that I had to stand up for myself and put an end to her toxic behavior. As I watched her stumble backwards, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. It was time for me to take control of the situation and put an end to her bullying once and for all. Karen stumbled backwards, clearly taken aback by my sudden outburst. "How dare you!" she exclaimed, her face turning red. "I've had enough of your nonsense," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm not going to let you treat me like this just because I'm pregnant. You need to leave me alone." As I waited for the manager to arrive, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. My mind was racing, trying to think of a way out of this mess. Karen, who had caused this whole predicament, was still standing there with an insufferable smirk on her face. I gritted my teeth, wondering how she could be so self-satisfied when she was the one who had gotten us into trouble. Karen seemed to be enjoying my discomfort, and she taunted me with her words. "You're going to be sorry," she said, her voice dripping with malice. "When they search your person, you'll regret ever crossing me." I tried to block out her words and focus on my breathing, but it was hard to do when my heart felt like it was going to burst out of my chest at any moment. I ignored her and took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. A few moments later, the store manager arrived. "What's going on here?" she asked, looking from me to Karen. "This woman is accusing me of shoplifting just because I'm pregnant," I said, my voice still shaking. The manager turned to Karen. "Is this true?" she asked. "Yes, it is," Karen said, crossing her arms over her chest. "I saw her put something in her stomach under her shirt, and I want to see what it is." The manager sighed. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we can't just strip search someone without probable cause, and accusing someone of shoplifting just because they're pregnant is not probable cause." Karen sputtered in protest, but the manager held up a hand to silence her. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store," she said. "And if you ever come back here and cause a scene like this again, I'll have to call the police." Karen looked like she was about to argue, but then she seemed to think better of it. "Fine," she said, turning on her heel and stalking out of the store. As the woman walked away, her footsteps echoing down the empty hallway, I let out a deep and heavy sigh of relief. The tension that had been building inside me since the beginning of our conversation had finally dissipated. The other customers who had gathered around us, staring with a mixture of curiosity and concern, began to disperse, returning to their own errands and appointments. I turned to face the manager, whose expression had softened considerably. "God effing damn," she said, her voice filled with sympathy. "That was intense. Are you okay?" I nodded, still feeling a bit shaken. "Yeah, I think so," I replied. "Thanks for your help." The manager gave me a small smile. "Of course, that's what we're here for." Wow, that Karen sure got what she deserved. It's crazy to think that someone could be so entitled and accusatory without any evidence. Props to this woman for standing up for herself and her rights, even in a stressful situation like being accused of shoplifting. Glad it all worked out in the end. My mom stole $8K from me and opened credit cards in my name. I never thought my own mother would betray me in the way she did. For years, she had been stealing from me, opening credit cards in my name. But when I finally confronted her, what I discovered was even more shocking. Here's how it all went down. I haven't talked to my mom for a little over a year now, but this is the story of my mom's lies. Growing up, my mom was always in and out of jail for stealing. The last time she was arrested was in 2015 when I was 19. She always said she stole to provide for our family, but we never lived in a stable home. She would just blow money on expensive gifts and tell us we weren't poor because we had these things. As we moved from hotel to hotel, I became the financially responsible child. I worked multiple jobs, got good grades, and did community service. I was able to save up $8,500 for college with multiple scholarships. During my hard work in high school, I also helped my mom with bills and paying for whatever she needed help with. When I left for college, she was arrested again and had to be dropped off states away by my aunt for my first day of college. I asked my mom for my college money, and she said she would transfer the money when she got out. When she got out, it all magically disappeared. She blamed my dead grandmother for stealing my money. In 2019, I discovered that multiple credit cards and an apartment with late bills were opened in my name. I cried to my mom about all these issues, and she comforted me and asked for more money. I gave her more money. I graduated with my BA and went to grad school. I was able to be in grad school for 1 year with my savings before I needed to take out grad plus loans. I applied but was denied due to all the negative items on my credit score. My mom told me to just pay it off. I didn't. I dropped out instead. I was devastated, but I wasn't going to pay for other people's fun ride. I called all the credit companies and got the address for all the credit cards. It was my mom's address. When confronted, she broke down, saying it was my grandmother and how dare I blame her for this. She demanded an apology and didn't speak to me for a week. My grandmother died before all the credit cards were opened. I filed a police report against my mother. She doesn't know yet, but when she finds out, I am sure I will receive the best kind of text message. We stopped talking for another reason. Edit for all the comments. I have not spoken to my mother for a year, almost 2 years now. She has been blocked on everything. The reason we do not talk is on a previous post I made about how happy I am my boyfriend ruined my relationship with her. To the comments asking about why I kept giving her money. It was hard. It was either help with the bills or have no electricity, water, gas, or roof over mine and my brother's head. I didn't want to be homeless again, and I didn't want my brother to suffer either. I felt like I needed to help my family, because for so long I had the mentality that blood was thicker than water. I know now it isn't my responsibility. I was just young, and thought I was doing the best I could to provide for my family from the ages of 16, 23. I'm 26 now. Credit stuff. I have gotten a good amount taken off. Only 2 cards and 1 bill are on my credit score. Thank you for all the support and kindness. The OP left the following update, so this may not be the update everyone wanted to hear. I didn't get justice. She hasn't been arrested, and there are no charges at this time. I still have a police report, but I'm not going to push the police to make an arrest. The update is just more information that I have recently discovered. More context. It wasn't just always my mom, my brother, and me. When I was born, I shared a small 3-bedroom apartment with my grandmother, her husband, my aunt. In high school, my mom, me, and then my little brother followed. My aunt went no contact with the family in her later 20s, and I never knew why. It hurt to lose someone I was close to. I heard horrible rumors of things my aunt was doing from my mom, and my mom would also let me know awful things my aunt was saying about me. My aunt was on and off in my life after this NC. Well, fast forward to the present. I reached out to my aunt to meet her. We talked and got everything cleared. My mom stole my aunt and her father's identity. My aunt had a lot of debt she didn't know about, and when she found out, it was my mom. She pressed charges. This was the second time she was arrested. My aunt's husband, who was a cop, arrested her. I knew he hated my mom, but I never knew why. My aunt then gave me a list of family members who she also stole their identities, and everyone in the family knew it would happen to me and my little brother. The issue was how they were going to stop her. She was our mom. My aunt told me she wished my mom would have given us up, so my brother and I could have lived with her and had a normal life. I don't know why, but those words broke me so much. To know I had family that knew we were being hurt, but couldn't do much to help us. To know they wanted to save me and my brother. My aunt then proceeded to tell me my father tried to go to court to have my SSN changed and locked until I was 18. This way, my mom couldn't steal my identity. It obviously didn't work, and here I am. She told me how happy and proud she was of me. She told me she struggled when she went no contact because she felt like she left her babies behind, and she was afraid of how we would turn out. I love my aunt, and I'm so happy I reached out. I'm even angrier with my mom. How badly she isolated us into her own delusional world, and in the end destroyed our relationship. I told my aunt I didn't care that we struggled in poverty. I don't blame her for that. I blame her for how she handled it and put so much pressure on 2 children to become billionaires for her to continue her reckless spending. The OP left this second update. I am a ball of rage. I recently unfroze my credit account to apply for care credit to get emergency surgery done. Not even 2 months after unfreezing my credit, my mom applied for a new credit card in my name. I'm done. I always had a piece in me that didn't want to press charges or push for it because it was rough times in our lives, and I knew she was struggling to raise us. But now I see no excuse other than she just doesn't want the responsibility of living within her means. It has been 2 to 3 years of no contact. First, I would like to say F you to Chase Bank. The card was opened with them, and when I called to let them know it wasn't me, they told me they will see if they can close the account but need a police report first. I asked for the address to confirm it was my mom, but they kept denying my request for the address. I only got it confirmed after I told the operator, if I guess the damn address, would you just give me a yes or no? He agreed, and it was my mom's address. I am away for surgery for a while, but when I get back home I'm going to the police and requesting to speak with a prosecutor. I'm done. I'm hurt and done. I did my fucking best to raise my credit score to where it is now. I did my best to work multiple jobs to help with bills. I did my best to be her emotional support, no matter how badly she treated me. I feel like this next step will be cutting this one string I left connected to her out of sympathy, and of course it led to me being taken advantage of again. I hope to give an update on if the courts will be on my side. Edit. I'm sadly states away for this surgery, which is why I'm waiting until the surgery is over and I'm back home recovering. I don't know if I can file this report in the state I am in and it still be effective in the state I live in. I know jurisdiction can be a problem. Edit 2. Thank you for the advice, everyone. I will be pressing charges right away. My boyfriend is an attorney but doesn't work in the public area. I do have friends from my law school days that actually work in our county prosecutor's office, so I may reach out to them for some advice. They just passed the bar and are slowly getting into the routine. I also don't like to bring this up much to passive friends because it's just embarrassing. My mom and I haven't spoken in almost 2 or 3 years. It feels so long ago I really don't know the timeline. Questions. Why haven't I pushed for charges before, and why do I keep letting this happen? I really don't know if many will understand, but I have been conditioned to fear my mom. From a young age, she would punish me for not acting, speaking, or thinking a certain way. If she thought I had a negative thought about her, I was hit and yelled at. I had to beg and cry and comfort her that it wasn't true. After it was over, I would have to hold my mom and comfort her through the tears. The fear has been real even after cutting contact. It has stopped, thankfully, but I have been afraid that if I make this move, it will start again. What do I mean? She threatened to get my boyfriend and friends expelled from law school if they kept associating with me. We had to call the school and have a talk about my mom. She then threatened to report me to the IRS for tax fraud, but I always paid my taxes. She sent messages to my workplace. When I was a kid, I would be in the back seat as she drove past people she hated houses over and over to see what they were doing. That fear that she could find where I live and do this makes my stomach turn. I was afraid to push for these charges in the past because I wanted to leave it behind and continue the peace I was having. She stopped. I removed all those nasty things on my credit, and I was happy. Until now. Now I know it will never stop. After 4 years of not opening anything in my name, she went back to it. So I'm putting my foot down and taking this step. I understand I should have pushed more earlier. I do. I was scared and naive, but I'm going to stop it today. Last update until I get back home. I called my local police department back home, saying I have an update for the identity theft report I reported in 2021. They transferred me over to the detective office and said I would need to come in to make another report. I told them I am currently waiting to finish a surgical procedure and will not be back home for a few days. They said it was fine. So at this time, I will not be able to make the report until I get back home. But I'm also happy because they said I can talk to the detective when I come in to file the other report. So I hope to be making a part 4 by the end of next month with some good news. The OP left this third update. Well, it has just been a mix of emotions these past few days. My surgery went well, and my recovery should be complete by next week. I feel super good. I got cancer. I didn't expect this one. Skin cancer, which is super easy to treat and to prevent if I keep up with doctor appointments. I got this weird wart removed. I received a call right before I went into surgery saying it was cancer, and I would need to come in for some more testing and a body check. I would like to thank my mom for having me in tanning beds at 13. She said I was super ugly pale, and I believed her. She also didn't want people to think we didn't travel for spring break, so all spring break I would be in a tanning bed to look like we traveled. Wear sunscreen, kids. I got a puppy. I went to the police today and filed a report. I spoke to a detective too. I gave them all of my and my mother's information. They asked if I would like to press criminal charges, and I said yes. They are going to call the credit card company to pull the report. And if Chase Bank gives them the report without a subpoena, then we will have an easy charge and closing of the case. If Chase Bank wants a subpoena, then it will take longer to close this. I'm super happy I finally did this, and to hear that they may actually have charges to press against her. So once I have more of an update, I will post again. But it looks like it may be a couple of months before we get somewhere. Thank you everyone for the comments, messages of support, and kindness. I'm super happy where I am in life. Also, I did talk with my brother. He knows and is aware of the situation. He doesn't seem to care about his credit, but he is also still young. I'm sure he will understand soon and hopefully get his taken care of. Edit. I kinda chuckle when I read your comments commenting on my mom as an egg donor, because the surgery I just came back from was egg donation. I was donating my eggs to a gay couple I was close with at my job. They are a very sweet couple and know my family history. I've donated my eggs many times to other couples, but it makes me chuckle a little to see you call her an egg donor after coming from an egg donation cycle. Update. The police called to let me know they will be going to see her today or Tuesday to talk about the theft. If she admits to it, then we will have an easy case. I told them on the phone she won't admit to stealing. She would just blame someone else. The detective wanted to know if she had a drug problem. I told him no. She just can't live within her means. If I get a call back that she has been arrested, I will let you know. The OP left a fourth update. I received a call this morning from the detective. He wanted to hear my side of the story again. I told him about my mom's history with theft. I explained that I had filed a report once in 2021, but nothing happened. I also told him how I discovered the inquiry and how she did it the moment I unfroze my credit. He asked what I wanted him to do. I told him I would like to press charges. He asked if he went to her place, would she admit to the crime? I told him no. When I confronted her about it, she blamed my grandmother. Apparently my grandmother had powers beyond the grave to open these cards in my name. He asked if she was a drug user. I told him no, she just doesn't know how to live within her means. He said he would be going down today to interrogate her. If she admits to it, she will be booked right there. If she doesn't, then they will just need the Chase credit report. I am planning to go to Chase to grab the report and hand it to them myself tomorrow. I asked if she would know our address. He said if we go to court my address would be submitted as evidence against the identity theft, so she would know where we lived. Thank God we are renting right now. So we agreed that if we go to court, we will see how long her sentence is and plan to move out before she is released. We know she will serve time because this is her fourth time, and the judge will have no sympathy for a mom doing this to her daughter. The maximum punishment in the US is 15 years, but she always takes the plea deal, so I can see her serving either a couple of months or a year. It has been a couple of hours, and my stomach feels like it is doing flips. My head is so dizzy. The air feels so much heavier. I feel sick. I've been waiting by my phone for a call, an update, something. Did she admit? Is she booked? What is happening next? The detective then gave me the report number, and I called Chase Bank. Chase apparently hadn't processed the application, but after my call, it was put on hold until further investigation. With my report, I was able to have it denied and removed from my credit score. So I have confidence I can go into the bank tomorrow and snag that report. I apologize for any grammar mistakes here. I feel so lightheaded. I'm on edge right now. I'll update again once I have heard back from the police. The OP left this as their fifth update. So this isn't the update a lot of people want to hear. Police showed up on Friday to talk to my mom. She denied everything and said she doesn't even speak to me. Which is true, we haven't spoken in 2 years. That Friday I got logged out of my Experian account. It was weird, but I didn't think too much of it. Yesterday, I decided to use my downtime to get back into my Experian account, thinking I forgot my username and password, and that I signed up with an old email. I got back into my Experian account, and everything was different. Different email, different phone number, and username. It was like someone just wanted to control my credit file so that I wouldn't be able to access any more information. I saved the email and phone number. I just got off the phone with the detective, and they will investigate this too. If it's linked to her and shows up, then we have a closed case. If not, they said they will need to wait for more evidence to come in. My boyfriend and I talked. We don't want more evidence to come in and be on high alert. So I'm hoping that this time, with all my evidence, I will be able to change my SSN. I tried back in 2021, but was denied because I didn't have evidence of it being constant harm. So I'm hoping this will help. I don't know if I will have another update on this. We are sadly moving since our address was linked to my Experian account. I also get spam calls asking to speak with my mom or text with her name. Why haven't you changed your number? I tried in 2022, but the damn AT&T people ignored my request and kept my number the same. Plus, everything was quiet last year, so I'm going to try to change it again. Also, I know this is a question. How did she get into your Experian account? I have the same 4 passwords I use for everything. She knows 2 of them. Every time I am requested to change my password, I would just rotate to those 4. I know how stupid that was. I changed all my passwords to something she would never guess, and I'm better protected. If I do have an update, I will share it. But it looks like this may sadly be it. I'm sorry this isn't the happy ending we all wanted. I wanted justice too. But please know I am happy, even during these rough times. I have been super happy since I cut ties with my mom. I have an amazing found family and friends. It's funny, my favorite movie was Meet the Robinsons as a child. How the ending wasn't exactly what the protagonist wanted, to be happy with his birth family. But I'm happy I kept moving forward and met my new family. I have so much love in my life now. I couldn't have asked for more. Final update. The police just gave me a call again. The number was linked to her, but she told the officers she helped me set up the account when we were talking. so of course her number is linked, which is a 100% lie. The officer told me straight. If we didn't stop the inquiry and allowed her to use that card for a couple of weeks, we would have been able to book her since they would have evidence that a card was delivered to her address and she was using it. So this is truly the end. Thank you all for the support and love you sent my way. I hope everyone has a great rest of their week. Wow, I am so sorry you had to go through this. It's heartbreaking to hear that a parent could do this to their own child. You are incredibly strong for being able to take action against your mother and hold her accountable for her actions. I hope you are able to move forward and find peace after all of this. Sending you love and support.
I never expected my day at the park with my daughter to turn into a nightmare, but when a middle-aged woman accused me of kidnapping my own child, things took a terrifying turn. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. Here's how it all went down. I had been looking forward to this day for weeks. It was a sunny, warm Saturday, and my 5-year-old daughter and I were spending the day at the park. We had brought a picnic lunch and we were having a great time playing on the swings and climbing on the jungle gym. My daughter was full of energy, giggling and running around, and I was happy to let her burn off some steam. Before heading to the park, we had stopped at the grocery store to pick up some snacks and drinks for our picnic. I remember feeling proud of myself for being so organized and for having everything we needed for our fun day out. As we sat down on the picnic blanket to eat our lunch, I noticed a woman walking towards us. She was middle-aged, with a stern look on her face. I didn't think much of it first, assuming that she was just walking by. But as she got closer, she stopped and looked directly at me. "Excuse me," she said, her voice cold and accusatory. "What are you doing with that child?" I was taken aback by her tone, not sure what she meant. "This is my daughter," I said, gesturing towards the little girl sitting next to me. The woman's expression didn't change. "I don't believe you," she said firmly. "That child is too young to be your daughter." I could feel my heart start to race as I realized what was happening. This woman thought that I had kidnapped my own child. I tried to explain to her that I was her mother, but she wasn't listening. As the situation escalated, I could feel myself getting more and more frustrated. How could this woman accuse me of something so terrible? I had done nothing wrong. But she wouldn't back down. She demanded that I hand over my daughter to her real mother, whoever that was. I was starting to panic. People were staring at us, and I could feel their eyes on me. I didn't know what to do. I tried to reason with Karen, but she wouldn't listen. "Look, I don't know what your problem is, but this is my daughter," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I'm not going to hand her over to you or anyone else." Karen's expression turned to one of disgust. "You're lying," she spat. "You're obviously not the mother. You're just some kidnapper trying to steal a child." I could feel my blood boiling at her words. How dare she accuse me of something so heinous? "I am her mother," I said through gritted teeth, "and I can prove it. I have her birth certificate in my bag. Would you like to see it?" But Karen just sneered at me. "I don't need to see anything. I know what I saw. That child is not yours and you know it." I was starting to lose my patience. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger. "Do you want me to call the police myself and have them straighten this out?" Karen seemed unfazed by my threat. "Go ahead and call them," she said smugly. "I've already called them myself. They'll be here any minute to arrest you for kidnapping." I looked around, feeling a sense of panic rising in my chest. This was a nightmare. How had my day at the park turned into this? "This is ridiculous," I muttered. "I can't believe you're doing this." But Karen wasn't listening. She continued to berate me, her voice getting louder and more shrill with each passing moment. I could feel myself getting angrier and more frustrated by the second. How could someone be so entitled and cruel? As the minutes ticked by, I could see people starting to gather around us, curious about what was happening. I could feel their eyes on me, judging me. I didn't want to be here. I just wanted to go home with my daughter and forget this ever happened. But Karen wasn't going to let me go that easily. She was determined to make a scene and ruin my day, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down. I knew that I needed to stay focused and clear-headed if I was going to get out of this mess. I looked around, hoping to find someone who could help me, but everyone was just standing there watching us like it was some kind of show. The sound of sirens in the distance caught my attention. I knew that the police were on their way, and I hoped that they would be able to straighten everything out. But Karen was still there, still accusing me of something that I hadn't done. I could feel my anger rising again. How could she be so entitled and cruel? "Listen to me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You have no right to accuse me of something like this. You don't know anything about me or my daughter. You're just making assumptions based on your own prejudices and biases. I'm not a kidnapper. I'm just a mother who wanted to spend a nice day with her child." Karen just sneered at me. "Save your breath," she said. "The police will be here soon, and they'll see that I'm right. You're going to jail, where you belong." I gritted my teeth, feeling a surge of anger and frustration. "You're wrong," I said, "and I'm going to prove it." I reached into my bag and pulled out my daughter's birth certificate. "Here, I said, thrusting it at Karen. Take a look. This is my daughter, and I have the paperwork to prove it. Karen hesitated for a moment, then snatched the certificate out of my hand. She scanned it quickly, her eyes widening as she realized her mistake. This can't be right, she stammered. There must be some kind of mistake. There's no mistake, I said, feeling a sense of satisfaction wash over me. This is my daughter, and you were wrong. Dead wrong. Karen looked like she was about to say something else, but at that moment, the police arrived. 2 officers stepped out of their car and approached us, their faces serious. What's going on here? One of them asked, looking back and forth between us. Karen tried to speak, but I cut her off. This woman, I said, pointing at her, accused me of kidnapping my own daughter. She called the police and tried to have me arrested. But as you can see, I said, holding up the birth certificate, I'm the child's mother. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. The officers looked at the birth certificate, then at Karen. She looked like she was about to cry. I didn't know, she said, her voice shaking. I thought I was doing the right thing. The officers shook their heads, clearly unimpressed. Ma'am, this is a serious matter, one of them said. You can't just go around accusing people of crimes without any evidence. You could have caused a lot of damage today. Karen looked down at the ground, ashamed. I'm sorry, she said softly. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. The officers turned to me. Are you all right, ma'am? One of them asked. I nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. Yes, I said. Thank you, I'm just glad it's over. The officers took our statements and then left, leaving Karen and me alone in the park. I started to feel a sense of relief as the police officers left the park. Karen was still standing there, looking ashamed and embarrassed. I didn't feel any particular animosity towards her. I just wanted to get away from the situation as quickly as possible. I started to pack up our things, ready to leave. Karen called out to me. Wait, she said, her voice shaky. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I turned to look at her, feeling a sense of pity. She looked so small and defeated, like she was about to burst into tears. It's okay, I said, trying to be kind. Mistakes happen. Just try to be more careful in the future, okay? Karen nodded, looking down at the ground. I will, she said quietly. I promise. I finished packing up our things and took my daughter's hand. Come on, I said, leading her away from Karen. Let's go home. As we walked away, I could feel Karen's eyes on us. I didn't look back. I just wanted to get away from her and forget the whole thing had ever happened. We made our way back to our car and drove home. My daughter was chattering away, completely unaware of the drama that had just unfolded. I was glad of that. She didn't need to know about the entitled woman who had accused her mother of kidnapping. When we got home, I put my daughter down for a nap and sat down on the couch. I felt exhausted, emotionally drained from the events of the day. I couldn't believe that something like that had happened to me. I had always thought of myself as a good mother, a responsible person, and yet there I was, being accused of something so terrible. But I knew that I couldn't dwell on it. I had to move on and put the whole thing behind me. I took a deep breath and tried to focus on something positive. My daughter was safe, and that was all that mattered. Wow, what a crazy story. I can't believe someone would be so entitled and accuse a mother of kidnapping her own daughter. Glad it had a happy ending, though. During my spring break, I decided to go camping for the first time this year. Although I only had the weekend to enjoy the outdoors, I made the most of it and took the time to unwind. This time around, my brother didn't accompany me like he used to. It seems that he finally understood that messing with me is not worth it anymore, especially after the incident where he drank that growler full of laxative-spiked beer that he stole from me last year. So, the drama from him has been lessening in the past few months, though he's still an entitled jerk. Nevertheless, I have plenty of stories to tell about him and his antics from the months I wasn't posting. I thought that my worries about camping trouble were over, but I was wrong. I had to deal with a lunatic Karen. I had already spent one night at my campsite and was enjoying the fresh air when I got a sudden and hard tap on my shoulder. A roughly middle-aged woman in over-tight purple yoga pants with her hands on her hips was standing behind me. Although she didn't have the Karen haircut, her bleach blonde hair and overly large bug-eye sunglasses gave her away. In this situation, a lot of people will say, "Can I help you?" But I didn't want to give her an opening to say whatever she wanted. So I angrily said, "What? Can't you see I'm trying to relax by myself?" That set her aback for a second, but she didn't go away. So I paused the episode I was on and grumpily asked her what she was bothering me about. She spoke in a matter-of-fact way, trying to be in charge and activating mom mode on a stranger. However, I think the unfriendly scowl on my face was enough to show that I'm not exactly friendly, so she just pointed at the portable DVD player and said that she wanted to borrow it, along with the headphones, for her daughter. I refused to lend them to her because I didn't know her. I didn't know if she would bring it back, and I certainly didn't know if her kid wouldn't damage it. I do keep a smaller backup portable DVD player in the camper too, but I wasn't about to let this woman know that. She certainly didn't take being told off well and launched into a tirade about how I was a grown man watching cartoons, how they only had one TV in their RV, and her daughter needed something to watch because her kids couldn't agree on what to watch, so she needed my DVD player. I coldly stated that that wasn't happening, and she actually gave me a loud "why not?" So I pointed out that this was really not my problem, and she just crossed her arms and said that as an adult I should be putting kids first. I said that would be the case if I had kids, but her kids are not my kids. I don't know them, and I'm in no way related to them, and therefore I have no obligation to them. She rolled her eyes and tried to offer me money for the headphones and DVD player. Admittedly, I didn't pay much for either of them, but I wasn't interested in selling. She only offered $1.20 for both, so I just told her no and to kindly leave me alone to watch movies in peace. Then I tried to sit back down and resume the episode. She didn't take that well and proceeded to try and grab my DVD player right in front of me, like I was just going to let her walk off with it. I got up and stopped her while saying, "That ain't yours, lady." She proceeded to try and shove me over, but she clearly underestimated how heavy I am. I don't look it at all, but I'm around 230 pounds and my body frame just hides it well. And I've been in a few brawls in my life. I ended up grabbing her arms and shoving her back with little effort. She fell on her bum into some wet grass and started yelling that I'd assaulted her while looking around for support. I've seen enough Karen stories to know where this goes if I say nothing. So I yelled, "Yeah, assault! Assault on me when you tried to push me over and steal my stuff. And there are plenty of witnesses around us, lady, or did you not notice?" There had already been a few people around us watching the whole altercation, and they'd gone dead quiet while staring. So then I said to everyone, "Check it out. We've got a bona fide Karen here who tried to take my stuff for her precious angel baby. Everybody clap for her." And they did. They actually started clapping. The Karen looked completely humiliated and stormed off screeching that I was an asshole. Her yoga pants ass was all wet from the grass too, which only made it funnier. I kept thinking, "Your ass is grass," as she walked away, but I didn't say it aloud. I was still feeling uneasy afterward, and I didn't want to risk another encounter with the Karen. So, I packed up and went back into my camper to continue watching and drinking inside. I got pretty plastered that night, giggling like a moron while watching the episode with the panda people that were evil Chinese stereotypes. I stayed at the campsite for one more night and didn't see the Karen again until I was leaving Sunday afternoon. I saw her standing by her POS-looking RV with a large fountain beverage in one hand and a dog leash in the other. It was one of those yappy little fluffball dogs, too. She glared at me as I drove past, and I just waved to her and said, "Bye, Karen," out my window. She threw her drink at my truck, but none of it got in through the window. I could hear her yelling at me, but couldn't really make out a word of it. I'm not sure what goes on in the heads of these people. I understand that this could have gotten a lot worse, but I think the public humiliation was enough to make her back off. I can only wonder if the rest of her family is just like her. I'm glad I didn't meet them. That Karen got what she deserved. Can't believe some people feel so entitled that they try to take someone else's stuff like that. And then she tried to play the victim? Classic Karen move. Glad the guy stood up for himself and got the last laugh. For context, I've been working at a BPO since June 2021. I was offered to join a new campaign since October 2022 and eventually joined. In addition, I requested vacations last December, as I was going to spend Christmas and New Year's Eve with my family, as per usual, which of course, they were approved. On to the main story. I returned from these vacations at the start of January and everything went fine. However, as soon as I returned, I was informed by management that the team I was working with had been shuffled because all work teams are to be shuffled every 4 months as per the client's order. Not a problem. I was assigned new workmates, which would be fine until I met my new supervisor. The name was Rhonda. Slightly blonde, a bit chubby, and a grin that said that she was friendly. I was so stupid to fall for this. As soon as Rhonda introduced herself as the new supervisor, she mentioned something along the lines of, "If there is something I care a lot, it is about your salary. Anything wrong with your payroll, let me know." Again, there came the boring game of having to introduce ourselves to the entire team. It was my turn and went like, "My name is Eric, nice to meet you," before sitting back. But then Rhonda retorted, "Nice to meet you, Cedric." I was told by other workmates at the time that Rhonda sucked at remembering names, so I just let it pass at the time. Days went by, and whenever I was called for coachings and whatnot, Rhonda would continue to call me Cedric. I told her that my name is Eric on several occasions, but she seemed to throw the same, "I can't remember your name correctly" card excuse. It was a bit funny at the start, but it eventually became a nuisance, and I started to believe she was calling me another name on purpose. One day, I had a coaching session with Rhonda. This was about the time I had to put a stop to this nuisance. Following the coaching, I asked her why she was constantly calling me another name because crap was no longer funny. At first, she tried to play dumb and attempted to use the same excuse. I cut her off, looked at her dead in the eye and told her, "I know you're just messing with me. Just stop because this is not funny anymore." Rhonda dropped her dumbfounded facade and replied, You got me. It's simply because your face doesn't look like Eric. What the heck? You're just messing with me because I don't look like my name suits me? I then returned to my workplace after leering at Rhonda because of her ridiculous game. Enter February. And Rhonda didn't seem to have gotten the hint because she kept on messing with me. I have the habit of double-checking my payroll. When I checked it, I noticed that the day I worked was marked as a day off. Again, I was a bit shocked and was about to ask Rhonda what was happening. Before I could even go to her place, she informs us that there had been an outage with the payroll system, and everyone on the team would appear as day off for the day. I was a bit relieved. The next day, it seemed that everyone's payroll was eventually fixed. Everyone but me. It was my second day I was being marked as a day off. Having a gut feeling that there was something off with my payroll, and much to my frustration, I went to Rhonda and asked why my payroll wasn't fixed. She went like, "Sorry, Cedric, it seems that a few other agents are still having problems with their payroll, but your salary will be fine, trust me. Oh, and don't ever tell another supervisor about this, okay?" That one sentence felt like a red flag to me, and I thought, hold your horses, there is something wrong here. It was the third day, and again it was marked as a day off. But this time, I wasn't having it. While Rhonda was out to lunch, I went and asked Jack, my former supervisor, about what was happening with my 3 missing days of work. Jack revealed that everyone's payroll was already fixed shortly after the first day's shift ended. However, Rhonda not only lied to me but was stealing my payroll money. The bad news is that he had to send an email to the shift manager, as he needed authorization from him to modify the payroll from someone who wasn't on his team. On the next day, the 4th day, I checked my payroll once again, finally fixed. In a matter of coincidence, it was Rhonda's day off. It was at this time when Jack approached me and we had another talk. Jack went like, "Got it, we've got your payroll fixed, but there is a problem." The shift manager also sent a copy of the email to Rhonda. "I'm sorry for that." I replied, "Don't worry about it. I'll deal with Rhonda on my own. Thank you." Came Friday. I was sitting in my workplace doing my thing when Rhonda approaches me, boiling mad, as if I told her some profanity. She screamed, "I told you not to tell anybody about this, you jerk." I stood up and looked at Rhonda dead in the eye and then said, "Not only you continue to disrespect me, not only you lied to me, you tried to take my salary. What's wrong with you?" Rhonda gets angry and yells, "That's it! I'm gonna get you fired for this." I became already stressed out from the altercation, so I told my team lead that I was going to take a cigarette break. Following that break, I continued doing my own business, and nothing happened. 2 days off later, I came back to work, and then I noticed that Rhonda hadn't come to work. At this time, the shift manager called me to his office. As soon as I entered and sat down, I saw Jack already there. It was at this point where I was told that Rhonda had been fired. It turns out that more evidence was found that she had had a lot of escalations over her head, as she had always felt as if she was entitled to bully her own agents. In addition, the company already filed a lawsuit against her for fraudulent activity, and all because she refused to call me my actual name. This story is crazy. Can't believe someone would actually try to steal someone else's salary. And all because of a name mix-up? People can be so weird sometimes. My fiancée Jane found out she was pregnant in June 2021, and we announced it to our immediate families in August. At first, stepmother, I'll call her SM, was completely uninterested in our baby. Not that I expected much from the woman whose reaction to our pregnancy announcement was to ask Jane if she was sure it was mine. Even my dad berated her for that one, but she barely seemed to acknowledge the fact that we were expecting. Instead, she was more interested in my stepbrother, who was also engaged and would give her beautiful grandbabies soon. No complaints. We didn't want her involved, and we didn't even have to say anything. Planning our baby shower was complicated. Both me and Jane would have to work until the holidays, and I wanted to be involved. The due date was in February 2022, so we decided on early January as the best period of time. We enlisted 2 people as planners, my sister Laura, just realized I'd never given her a name, and Jane's best friend Nina. Me and Jane are mostly laid-back people. We didn't want a big party, nor did we want to spend too much money on it. We were saving for both our baby and the wedding. We decided early on that the shower would be co-ed. It would also have to be indoors, again January, and we settled on a guest list of 25 people, plus about a dozen kids. We came up with the idea of a pizza party. Me, Jane, and Luke, my BIL surrogate son, have had homemade pizza nights weekly since I moved in, and we thought it would be fun to incorporate that into the shower. Nina found an event venue with a pizza oven, and Laura figured out ways to incorporate classic baby shower stuff into the theme. The resulting plans were awesome. Make your own pizzas, non-alcoholic drinks, and plain bodysuits for the kids to customize. Nina and Laura mixed pizza decor with baby decor and found pizza-shaped sweets. It almost seemed messy, and I was surprised they made it work, but we loved it. Most of the planning was finished by the middle of November. Well, later that month, my stepbrother's fiancée left him for her ex. They'd been together for 4 years at that point, and it was both sudden and traumatizing for him. He was devastated. SM then realized the grandkids she dreamed of would take longer to come than she thought. So, naturally, without her son's milestones to obsess over, she moved on to mine. Suddenly, SM went from aloof relative to excited grandma-to-be. Facebook posts, tacky promoted to Nana shirts, the whole nine. At first, we were too busy finishing things up at work and getting ready for the holidays to worry about that. But it didn't take long for her to start pestering us about planning the baby shower, as well as a gender reveal. We denied the possibility of a gender reveal party. No offense to those who like them, but we don't. Plus, we had decided to wait until birth to find out the sex. SM tried to get us to find out and tell her as a Christmas present, but we didn't. We also denied her the baby shower. She told my father, and he told Laura into letting SM help out with the plans. She was still living with at the time, so she didn't have much of a choice. She called Nina, and they met SM for coffee. Though I wasn't there for that meeting, Laura told me what happened later. Before they could even mention their plans, SM started talking about hers. According to Laura, she pulled a shockingly thick binder, complete with the words, "Oh baby" on the cover, colorful tabs and pieces of fabric poking out from her bag, and skipped to the shower section. It was short compared to the rest of the binder, but still long. And it was all to describe her one and only baby shower project. Laura sent me pictures and asterisk, oh boy asterisk. I'll give her this. It looked like the most asterisk Instagrammable asterisk baby shower ever. That being said, it was also barely functional and obviously expensive. There were balloons, oversized teddy bears, giant alphabet blocks, and cringeworthy signs everywhere. SM was going for pretty over-cozy with uncomfortable chairs and some fancy food ideas that didn't look edible. Most of them had soft cheeses, which Jane couldn't eat. The color palette was just 3 different shades of pink with gold accents. We'd be fine with a pink baby shower if it at least tried to mix things up a little. But SM's pictures looked like Barbie had puked all over Hello Kitty's birthday party. When Nina tried to remind her that we didn't know the sex, SM said she just knew that it was a girl. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. SM also wanted an all-female, child-free party with fancy caterers and alcohol. She had written down a guest suggestion list containing some of her closest friends. Neither mine nor Jane's moms were on it, and planned party games no one had any interest in trying out. Basically, the only thing everyone could agree on was to hold the party indoors. Laura and Nina weren't given an opportunity to show her their plans until she was done. Once they could, they explained that, while they could find a way to incorporate some of SM's ideas, they'd already settled on the pizza theme. She tried to protest, but Laura stated that it was kind of them to even offer that, as the shower was a month away and we'd already greenlit their plans. SM even called me to try to get them to change their minds, but I just repeated their words. My dad had found out he couldn't come to the shower, so he didn't get a say in anything anymore. The holidays came around, and the subject was dropped. SM seemed to be okay with the pizza party. Nina managed to pair some of the pink decor she'd wanted with matching blue stuff, and even added one of the huge teddy bears. Fast forward to a week before the shower. Jane was almost 8 months pregnant. Everything had been bought, all guests had RSVP'd, and pretty much anything was ready to go. The shower was set to start at 7 p.m. SM offered to get to the venue earlier to prepare everything. Laura agreed, mostly because she knew SM would complain if she didn't get to do anything, and the venue even let them drop off their decorations before the party. Me and Jane promised to get there at 6. 2 days before the shower, however, the venue called Nina. They told her that SM had stopped by to drop off large, heavy boxes of what she called a little surprise for us. She'd informed them that she planned on showing up at 3:30 p.m. to start setting it up. They were calling to reinforce that the venue was only booked past 4 p.m., since SM almost threw a tantrum when told that. All of the decorations was still at Nina's place, so she called Laura to check if they'd left anything with SM. Thankfully, my sister is both smart and used to this shit, so she drove to the venue the next day and asked to see SM's boxes. She told me she wasn't even surprised at its contents when she opened them, but was still shocked at SM's audacity. All of the boxes were filled with pink frilly decorations. Some of them seemed to be the exact same items SM had initially shown Laura and Nina. The signs, the balloons, the placemats, everything. Laura realized that's why SM intended to get to the venue earlier, to set up the baby shower she'd planned, and pretty much force us all to party in Barbie hell with her. She called Nina to figure out what to do. Neither of them could come at 4 p.m., so it was almost inevitable for SM to get her way. The most obvious solution they came up with was to throw everything away, but Laura had a better idea. That night, they called me and Jane. Hey, want to destroy a party in 2 hours? Laura got home and invited SM to go to a salon with her, lying about having coupons. SM agreed, and they planned on going right after SM was done preparing the baby shower. At 4 p.m. the next day, SM got to the venue. She was done setting things up by 5, I'll admit the woman is fast, and quickly left to meet Laura at the salon. Once they were together, Laura texted Nina that the coast was clear. At that, me, Jane, and Nina went to the venue. Sure enough, SM had prepared her party. To make this shorter, I won't describe it, but I will say it was so pink it almost gave Jane nausea. For the next 2 hours, Laura distracted SM at the salon while the three of us quickly took down every piece of decor SM had put up and replaced it with the pizza party stuff. We set up the activities, made up the tables, and put every pink item we found back in SM's boxes. It was actually really fun. We were done only minutes before the shower started. A handful of guests arrived before SM did, so I barely saw her all night. Laura told me that when they got there, SM's jaw dropped as she tried to make sense of what had happened to all her pink decor. My sister just smiled, whispered "nice try" in her ear, and went to help Luke customize a bodysuit. Overall, the baby shower was everything we'd hoped for. Our friends were there, people had fun, and we had a ton of pizza. So I didn't really care that SM spent the whole party literally sulking in the corner. Nina did catch her trying to put little pink bows on top of the cupcakes, but she quickly shut that down. I give Laura and Nina full credit for saving the day. SM's interest in our baby quickly died after that. She stopped wearing her Nana shirts, didn't come to see us at the hospital when he was born, and refused to even acknowledge that he was a boy until she met him weeks later. Up until we went NC, she was a very loose definition of the word grandmother. I couldn't be more grateful my son will never know her. Can't believe the audacity of some people. Glad they were able to pull off the perfect baby shower despite stepmother's interference.